Okay, since he asked, Farmouth wants a shout out. What can you say about his development since his arrival here tonight?
I think he's done a nice job. Obviously coming in, he's a very mature player, being a post-grad guy out of high school. But he's done what we ask all of our guys to do. That's get a little bit better every week, and he continues to do that. Every week we can ask him to do a little bit more, and he's handled that well. Nothing's been too big for him, and he's continued to do that throughout the season.
What are the next steps you'd like to see him take, after the bowl game, the offseason, all those kinds of things?
Well, obviously he hasn't had a full offseason with our strength staff, so I think that's going to be a big part of it, and continuing just to get better with his knowledge of the game.
How about Zack Kunz? Not a guy we've seen on the field as much, but how about this month? What does it mean for him?
Zack's done a great job. The great thing about bowl practice is being able to get 15 extra practices in. It's almost like fitting into a spring ball into a month. And Zack's done a great job. I mean, you see how much bigger he's gotten since he's got here. He's really taken control of his development and the strength and conditioning. Being an early enrollee, he's done a really nice job. We're expecting big things out of him in the future.
Where is he weight-wise, and what is his upper limit for as tall as he is in terms of strength and weight?
I don't know where he is as of today.
Right,
he's put on 10 to 12 pounds since he's been here. I see him continuing to do that every year. I don't know if there is an upper limit for him. Him being 6'7½", I think he's got a lot of room to put on some weight. He's got a great frame.
Tyler, as you guys go into Florida more recruiting, the past couple years now, does being down here help those efforts at all?
I think so. It doesn't hurt to be able to play a team in the SEC in a bowl game and go out and compete with them. I think it doesn't hurt being around, but I think the biggest thing were some of the recruiting battles we won during this recruiting cycle, and obviously Coach Sider's relationships down here. There's no cookie cutter way to recruit. I think guys have strengths and weaknesses in areas, and that's obviously shown through with Coach Sider and the relationships we've been able to build down here as a program in a very short time.
You mentioned the early enrollee and post-grad enrollee. That's becoming more and more of a trend, certainly with the new signing class as well.
Right.
The advantages of being able to get in early, Coach,
I think
with your position group.
The biggest thing is, and with any position group, you get them in early, we're able to fit an extra semester in. That's academically, but obviously from a football standpoint, that's development in the strength and conditioning program. I think anytime you can do that, we accelerate not only the learning curve from getting spring ball, but also their physical development in the weight room with our strength staff.
Tyler, what about the ability to get more work in for the class of 2020 and 21 and even beyond? You got so much work done in the early signing period.
Right.
How much focus can you put on those classes now?
Well, I think a lot of that goes with the new recruiting calendar. With the early signing period, you're kind of able to use January. Not only are you closing up the current class, but you're able to get out and get to see some of these guys sooner, where generally that's been a spring ball type thing. A spring recruiting type thing.
Tyler, is the evaluation of who's left on the 2019 board something that you kind of put focus on after the bowl, or is that something you all are talking about right now?
No, we talk about it constantly. With our boards and our lists, that's something that's ongoing. A lot of the guys that we're recruiting right now, we've had long relationships with. It's just they're deciding to sign in the second signing period. That's no problem with us. We'll continue to build those relationships and see where we end up.
What were your expectations of Freiermuth when you guys got a commitment from him? Has he exceeded those expectations?
I wasn't here when we got a commitment from him, but going through in the off season after he signed and things like that, he's just gotten better. And honestly, it's not just him. That group's gotten better every week. I think with bringing in two guys like Freiermuth and Kunz, you improve the quality of the group and the competition gets better. And I think you've seen that through every level. We've had a lot of contributors out of that group, different guys. If you guys look early in the season, we had multiple guys contributing in the games. If you look at just the pure production of that group, I think he's helped that. I think that's been a big part of it.
Your guys go against the DNs in practice. You notice. What can you, from your vantage point, what have you seen from Yetur this year in practice?
In practice, you see exactly what you're seeing on the field. Obviously, Yetur is a physical specimen that has a lot of gifts, but he's really been that way the entire time that he's been here. He's just gotten a little better. He keeps progressing, and now I think he's started to break out with his production. But every day we see the same things from Yetur that he's showing in games right now.
Can you talk about this particular matchup, how important Pat and the tight ends could be against this Kentucky team with active linebackers like that?
Yeah, I think anytime we're playing a 3-4 team, obviously there's a little bit on our plate. I always say the tight end is a jack of all trades, and we try to master all of them. We don't try to master none, but to be able to affect the game in the run, the pass, and then on the perimeter and blocking, I think it's a huge game for us and a huge challenge.
How are you guys different when it comes down to, you guys said obviously you're going to wait for kids, that kind of thing, but James had said before that supply and demand after the early signing period, kids are getting presumably a little more pressure, more push. Do you guys approach it differently, considering you're only dealing with fewer kids at this point to round up the class?
No, I think at all times we're just trying to improve our roster. So if we can bring in a player that fits a need and improves our roster, or vice versa, he's the best available, I think we're always looking to do that with the amount of spots we have left with scholarships.
Are you like more pressing in terms of contact?
That's not really how we recruit. We're way more relational. We don't really believe in pressuring guys. We just want to build relationships. We want them to be as comfortable committing and not forcing them into it. So I think we just continue building relationships, selling family, being consistent with a message, and that plays out over time.
Tyler, I'm sure you're not surprised, but Brenton Strange was named the All-USA first teamer in West Virginia.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about what particularly stands out about him as he's particularly put together now, and then what you think maybe a year or two down the road biggest improvements could be?
Well, his production in high school has been incredible. If you look over the last 2 years, he's a guy who's received the ball for over 2,000 yards. He's got over 2,000 yards receiving over the last 2 years. So I think that production with his ball skills, and then also showing the physicality that he does on defense, playing Sam linebacker. I think the biggest thing with him, just like any high school guy coming into a college program, is going to be his physical development over the offseason. And again, that's a big part of getting him in early. I think that helps a lot to get an extra semester with him.
Did Mike's athleticism, Kasicki, at the tight end, did that help change some of the conversations you've had with some of the recruits and some of the people that you look at?
Yeah, I think so, and I've been a part of this offensive system all the way back to Fordham as a coordinator and as an O-line coach. This is an offensive system that uses the tight end very different than other systems do. I mean, he is a prime receiver in the pass game, not just a decoy, and I think that has changed overall, and obviously Mike benefiting from that production over the 2 years has really helped put us on the scene from a tight end recruiting perspective.
Getting back to recruiting Florida, you mentioned kind of laying the foundation here over the past couple of years. What's the end game there? Ideally, what does it look like, 3-4 years down the line of recruiting the state?
I think when you look at us, we're always going to be regional in our footprint. Obviously, we want to own our region, our 6-hour radius, our 3-hour radius in our state, but I think it gives us another area to supplement that recruiting with. And the more and more we can do that, obviously, you guys know there's a ton of athletes in this state. There's a ton of prospects that are going all over the place to play Division I football. So if we can lay a foundation there, hopefully that can pay dividends for us with a couple guys a year.
2 more for Tyler.
I believe James said that he reached out to Coach Moorhead and those kinds of things. Have you reached out to him at all about specifically the bowl game and kind of what you can gain?
We went back and forth a little bit through the season, more good lucks and stuff. It's something I'll probably get a hold to him after the season.
Tyler, moving into the offseason, you're going to have 3 guys who are on campus for a year or so, and then 3 more who have been 4 or 5 years on campus. Right. How have those veterans handled Pat's emergence? Obviously, Zack is pushing. How have they handled that whole dynamic?
I think if you're with that group every day, you know they're close, and you know they feed off of each other's successes. They're just as happy when any of them are just as happy when the other one makes a play or makes a block or protects or whatever. They're a very tight-knit group, and I think they're enjoying anyone's success.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thanks, Tyler.
All right, thank you guys.